A very good evening and welcome to another edition of Men's Lounge live on ATV Ghana. I am Sefat Dankwa and I am sitting in for your regular host, Nana Yao, wherever you are. Good evening going out to you. Last week we had an intro. Last month on ETV Ghana we had an interesting month where we celebrated Made in Ghana. It was climaxed last Friday. It was very exciting. With the men cooking here and there, you know, we tasted some stuff that were rough. ETV came out tops anyway. We came out tops ahead of all of the other brands and other departments that we have in GMA. So congratulations to the men who cooked. We hosted and won. The month of October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and you know when we speak of breast cancer, it's not just about the women, men, you must also be involved in whatever activities that we're going to use in marking the month. Remember to be a part of whatever it is that we're going to do live here on ETV Ghana. That's Breast Cancer Awareness Month on GMABC. That's the hashtag. Please, if you're a man and you're in the house with your wife, please help her examine her breast. Also, try as much as possible to make sure that you and your family, the females in your family, are a part of the activities here. Let's go for a quick break. When we return, I'll introduce to you the topic and my guest for tonight. Welcome back to Men's Lounge live on ETV Ghana. A very good evening going out to my number one director at the back there. He's such a character. Tonight we are talking about an issue that you probably might have been hearing about in the news. I remember very well that there was an incident at, and I'm not saying this to tarnish the image of any brand or whatsoever, but there was an incident which occurred at Ridge Hospital where a young man lost his wife who was due for labor, and the issue became very huge. It actually opened the Pandora box of issues having to do with medical negligence. And since then, we've been talking about one or two or three or four or five of them. Sometimes it's very difficult for people to even get to understand what it is all about. Tonight, I have a lawyer in the house, and he is going to help us understand all of these things, what your rights are as a patient when you visit a hospital, what you need to know and what you need to demand for. In the cases where you suspect negligence on the part of a worker at the hospital or negligence on the part of the institution as a whole, what do you need to do? What steps are you supposed to take? Lawyer, let's lift the Fiadeo. Good to see you again.
Yes.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much.
And I believe that you're okay.
Yes, I'm fine.
How was your weekend?
Restful.
Really?
Very, very restful.
Sometimes when lawyers tell me it's restful, I tend not to believe that because you are bookworming through a lot of documents, a lot of cases, a lot of papers to read. So when you say it is restful, I just want you to explain it a little bit to me when you say it is restful.
Well, my weekend starts on Fridays.
Okay.
So Friday after 5 p.m., I'm no more a lawyer. Yes. I'm just...
You take on a new character?
I take on a new character. I take on my default character.
Okay.
That's the Leslie, and Leslie loves to relax. I just love to relax. I love to watch movies. I love to be indoors. If I'll go out, then it should be very, very prompting. You know, a stage play, a party, or maybe some good music playing somewhere where I can go and sit and then
relax.
And then just relax, because the human heading. You are thinking for a lot of people, you know, a lot of people.
And sometimes you feel to start thinking about yourself.
You have to start thinking about yourself.
Let me announce the text line or WhatsApp number for the show. You can also text and get involved in this particular conversation, because I believe that some of us who are watching us tonight might have gone through a similar situation. I was sharing with Lawyer actually that my sister had gone through a similar situation, and if it had not been for the intervention of some people that I knew, would have been a lethal case. Send us a text or WhatsApp 0202 222 054 0202 222 054, and I'll do the favors of making sure I read that particular message that you send. And if it is a question, you can send the questions through as well, and I'll make sure good lawyer here answers them for us. Lawyer, let's start a conversation.
Right.
You've ever heard of medical malpractice, medical negligence? In legal terms, I mean, and try as much as possible to break it down for us. What does it really mean?
Okay, so there's this advert that used to air on, I think, one of the radio stations. And then, so then the advert goes, there was this woman who was about to undergo surgery. And then the doctor was telling her, I think the doctor was reassuring her not to be nervous.
That everything was going to be okay.
That everything was going to be okay. And I think it was rather the doctor who was nervous, you know. So you wouldn't want to. The whole idea behind negligence in general, of which medical negligence is a part of, is that if you say you are, or if you say you belong to a certain profession or a certain expertise, there's a certain standard that is set for you.
Sure.
Okay. There's a certain standard that is set for you. And that standard is that of a reasonable doctor. Okay. What will a reasonable doctor do in such a situation? So if a reasonable doctor will do X, Y, and Z, and you go do A, B, and C, clearly you are falling below what a reasonable doctor would do. And if this failure to adhere to X, Y, and Z because you did A, B, and C results in some form of injury, then you have what we call medical negligence. So let's break it down. First of all, the law says that medical practitioners owe what we call a duty of care to their patients.
Yes.
Okay. Just by being a medical practitioner, you owe your patient a duty of care. Now, two, there's a standard for which you have to act. And if you fall below that standard, then that is where the legal brains will say you have breached that duty of care. Apart from that, your patient should have suffered some form of what? Damage. Now, damage without the S to a lawyer is a type of injury that is suffered. And death is a type of injury. You know, death is a type of injury. Bodily harm is a type of injury. So if all these three things are met, the duty of care, the breach of that duty of care, and the resultant damage is met, then you, the affected person, can sue for what we call damages.
Okay.
So the S makes the difference. So the damage without the S is a type of injury.
Okay.
But the damage with the S is monetary compensation that the law would give you, okay, for the injury, for the breach of the duty of care that the doctor owes you, or that the medical practitioner owes you. So that's the whole idea behind medical negligence. We are just telling everybody that if you claim you are an expert at something, or you belong to a certain field of practice, like in medicine, then you should always act like the reasonable doctor would act. And if you don't do so...
So you need not to act contrary to the established standards. If you sidestep what has been set down for you, and you, in the event, neglect your responsibility as a doctor. So the duty of care is the responsibility in this case.
Yes.
And then in the neglect of your responsibility, it leads to some form of injury. Then we can say that you've been negligent
medically. Yes.
And in that case, I mean, as a patient, you have grounds to take the facility on or to take the individual on?
Yes. So you have grounds to either take the individual on or the facility on. If the individual who performed the surgery is an employee of the facility, then you are looking at what the lawyers call vicarious liability, where the employer will be held liable, right, for the wrongs, the civil wrong. That's the negligence. Negligence is a type of civil wrong. So the employer will be held liable for the negligence of their employee, who is the doctor. So, sorry, the hospital will be held liable for the medical negligence of the employee, who is the doctor.
Okay.
Then from there, you can get your damages. That's your compensation. Yes.
So I just want to understand one thing. That does it mean that it is only the person who has suffered the damage who can take the facility on?
No, not necessarily. Persons who are considered to be close in proximity of relationship can also start the required action. You understand that? So we are looking at parents, we are looking at husband, we are looking at, okay, basically we are looking at spouse. You understand that? We are looking at spouse and all those people who can. And when you die, in the event that you die, then your next of kin or the administrators of your estate or whoever it is can also sue with respect to medical negligence and then get the needed compensation.
So I think first and foremost we've learned that when you go to the hospital, number one, the hospital or the caretaker at the hospital owes you a duty of care, which is established. Number two, there are established standards that the caretaker who is taking care of you or who is helping you treat your ailment or sickness that you've sent to the hospital is supposed to follow or is supposed to adhere to. That's two. Now, within that, the caretaker is to ensure that nothing goes awry, nothing goes awry. That's what the English people will say. Nothing will go wrong.
Yeah.
Now, in a case that the caretaker neglects his or her duty, and in the neglect of his or her duty, it leads to a damage, then it is considered medical negligence. In that case, lawyer is making us understand that you, the person who has suffered the damage, you have the right to take the hospital on. Now, you mentioned vicarious liability.
Yes.
In a case where the person who treated you or who performed a particular surgical operation on you, right, faulted. Now, you can either sue the entire hospital,
the administration of the hospital,
for the wrongs done by their
employee, who is
single
the
employee.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think that is established. And also, in a case where the person who suffered the damage dies, anybody who is closer to the person,
in proximity of relationship,
in proximity of relationship,
so spouse, children, next of kin, administrators, anybody can sue.
Anybody at all,
yes,
can sue.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm laughing over this, and I know most of us watching us right now, I shared my experience with you.
Yes, you did.
Most of us have gone through that. Question that I would want to ask is, how do you know that this constitutes medical negligence? Is it just about the damage as you described, or there may be other means of identifying that, oh, what is happening to me might have been as a result of the negligence on the part of the doctor who was supposed to have taken good care of me?
Right. So let me use this scenario. You go to the hospital for, let's say, a corrective procedure. Okay, maybe you broke your ankle during football training. Corrective procedure, very normal corrective procedure. And then you come back paralyzed from your waist down. You went in to correct your broken ankle, but you came out of the hospital paralyzed with waist down. Definitely there was something wrong. Do you understand that? So it is up to you, the one who is suing, to prove that, okay, me going to the hospital with a broken bone or a set of broken bones, okay, it is not normal for me to have come out of the hospital paralyzed from my waist down. So therefore, somebody did something or somebody did not do something. And that is why I am facing this situation. And it is up to the lawyer to do the investigation. And lawyers are investigators too. So if we go and we realize that maybe the infusion that was given you had no business ending up in your system. Do you understand that? Clearly, somebody didn't do something. Or let's say that you went for an internal the surgery relating to your entrails or something internal, an internal organ. And then 3-4 weeks after you are home and you are feeling serious discomfort, there is blood all over. You go back and then the x-ray reveals that there's a surgical knife in your system. God did not place it there. Do you understand that? Human error placed it there. And a reasonable doctor, if he had conducted himself well with respect to the surgery he conducted on you, would not have left that medical apparatus in your system for you to suffer that damage. So all these are the proofs. You know, all these are the set of proofs that the lawyer would collect in order to prove your case in court. And when he does it, I mean, there are a lot of cases where people have succeeded. There are a lot of cases where we ourselves, and when I say we, I mean our firm, we have brought against people and we have won. Ghana's laws are littered, so to speak, with a lot of cases where people have sued for medical negligence or with respect to medical negligence and have won. Crazy amount of compensation. Yes, crazy amount of compensation. So the law is there. It is up to you to tap into it and engage it and use it to your benefits. The lawyer won't come and force you to. Otherwise, you will also be cited for funding litigation. We are there. Our doors are wide open. If you feel or if you believe that, no, this injury was not as a result of normal proceedings, but somebody was negligent, why not? We can test the law on your behalf.
So you need to identify as a person, as the individual who went to the hospital.
Yes, you were there.
You were there.
Yes.
You must be aware of your condition before
And after.
a particular procedure. If something is abnormal after the procedure, you may have to start your own little investigations to understand why that is happening to you. If you feel at the point that this could amount to negligence on a part of the facility that I went to, then the person can start the legal process. But then let's come to the legal process, because you see, many of the people in this country, I mean, feel that it's very expensive to even start a legal process. How is it like, for example, starting a process after you realize that something has gone wrong after visiting a particular hospital?
Right. So, like I said previously, lawyers do a lot of investigations too. The fact that a client has told me something may not necessarily mean that it is how the client has described it.
It's sacrosanct. You may have, it may not necessarily be sacrosanct.
Yes, exactly.
So you have to do your own investigation.
You have to do an investigation. You see, the law is like this bottle here, right? It's now, we are saying that if you feel, if you pour the content and it gets here, then take the thing to court. Do you get it? So if you start filling in my legal inquiry bottle and it doesn't get here, I can tell you that, oh,
You cannot take it.
we understand whatever it is that went through, but doing my analysis of the facts, okay, by presenting the issues, we haven't gotten to the state where lawyers call a cause of action. You do not have a cause of action to go to court with respect to the injuries you might have suffered. But if you keep pouring the content into the bottle and it gets to the stage where the law says that it has to get to for us to go to court, why not? So it is not everybody's grievance, so to speak, that you tell, yes, you are in pain, you are grieving, but the lawyer also looks at certain things. And that is the advice that the lawyer would give you. That, oh, having gone through, remember I said you have to have a duty of care,
Yes.
a breach of that duty of care, and then there should have been resultant damage. But there are certain things too that may crop up that the law will say, oh, if these things crop up, you do not have a duty of, if these things crop up, even though you may have a duty of care, the doctor may not have breached that duty of care. And with law, if the law says that this thing must get to this level, and in filling it in 3 chambers, it will get to this level, and you're able to fill only 2 out of the 3, you can't go to court. Yes, you must fill all the 3. And that is what we call establishing the element of negligence. You have to establish all the 3 elements in order for the lawyer to say, you know what, you have the right to go to court. And the right to go to court is what we call the cause of action. Yes, so that is the whole idea.
So it's not automatic?
No, it is not automatic.
That if somebody comes to you and reports or make claims of negligence on the part of a particular facility, automatically you just get up and then you go to court?
No. It's a long process.
How long will it usually take for you to conduct your investigations and then get to a point where you lawyers will say, okay, look, you have a case, we can go to court?
So a lawyer will begin by writing to the facility in what we call a demand notice. Now, the demand notice is to demand for information with respect to why this thing happened. Your client has told you something, but you need to hear from the other side to what's really happened. They would provide the necessary details. So if you write the demand notice and it comes back and the explanation is not fully satisfactory, then you can go to court. If they do not also respond, because the lawyer will give a number of days or a period within which they should respond. If the facility or the individual does not also respond, then you can also go to court. You understand that? The law loves fair hearing. You have to give the other person the chance to explain himself. Otherwise, you go to court guns blazing only to realize that you've been shooting blanks. You understand that? Only for the person to come and give a very good excuse, which we call a defense, or to come and meet you and say, see, the law says you must bring 3 elements. You've only brought 2. One we are not sure about. And then the client will go like, lawyer, one your way, Jumaye. So a good lawyer is the one who advises his clients adequately. You have presented me with a set of relevant information that the lawyers call facts. Let us look at the facts and let's use to establish if indeed you have the right to go to court.
So, viewers, it's not just about you suspecting that there was a negligence on the part of a particular facility, so you're seeking the services of a lawyer to take the matter up and go to court. You would have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that indeed you have evidence to back the claims that are being made. And as lawyer Fiadeo made us understand, they will write to the hospital to also demand for certain information. And it's fair to ensure natural justice. In as much as you've told your story to the lawyer must also investigate and get information to either corroborate or to, in some sense, dispute whatever it is that you claim might have been medical negligence. But if number one, your lawyer writes to the hospital, giving them a number of days for them to respond, and they fail to, then it means you can go to court. That's
exactly.
one.
Yes.
Now, if the facility that you attended also gives responses that does not meet the satisfaction of your lawyers, then you can also go to court.
Exactly.
But then, if they are able to bring responses that are tangible and could explain the condition of the person in question, then that it means that you may not necessarily have to go to court.
Yes, exactly. And there are a lot of cases that whose facts are very sad, and you would have felt that this victim deserved a compensation, but the court will tell you no. And there are many cases. You know, there are many cases. A very prominent one, which every legal brain would readily recall, is a common law case of. Now, when I say common law, I mean decided by the courts, the English courts. It's a common law case of Roe versus MOH, Roe versus the Ministry of Health. The courts were able to establish that yes, the doctor owed the victim a duty of care. You know, but when it came to the breach, as to whether he had breached it, the courts were not too sure, and I'll explain why. As at the time the victim underwent the surgical, medical intervention, whatever it was, you know, science had not developed then. So the ampoules that had the liquid content that were to be transfused into his system, okay, had minute cracks
On them.
So the contents that were supposed to have been transfused independently began to seep. They had no business seeping within each other.
In tandem, yeah.
And then ending up in the victim's system. Okay, so the victim became paralyzed, and then he sued. But the court said that, see, as at 1947, science had not reached that level where they could easily detect minute cracks. You see the wisdom behind the decision. Science had not reached the level where they could detect minute cracks. So even though it is a sad case, remember I said you must prove all the three elements, they could not prove one of the elements, and that the doctor failed to carry out his duty of care. And the judge said it, that don't let us look through 1947 through the lens of 1954. Meaning that in 1954, scientific technology had developed so much so that now you could detect minute cracks in ampoules. In 1947, that was not the case. So you see a beautiful case, you take it to court, but in the wisdom of the judges, you have not established all your elements that you need to establish.
You need to establish your elements beyond reasonable doubt. Let's go for a quick break. When we return, we ask the question as to the prevalence of medical negligence cases in the country. He cited a case in the United Kingdom. We'll bring it back to Ghana and find out why there seems not to be a lot of issues on medical negligence, despite the fact that a lot of people in private do normally talk about this matter. Men's Lounge returns after this break. Welcome back to Men's Lounge live on ETV Ghana. Remember, we are also streaming live on Facebook. Your comments are welcome on our Facebook live feed. You can also send them to our WhatsApp number. Let me quickly go through the WhatsApp number for you. 0202-222-054. 0202-222-054 is the number for you to send your questions too, or your contributions. And I know that some of us may have stories to share. I can share the story of a close relative of mine who went through a similar situation. If it had not been for how apt we were at a point in time, I believe that that particular family relative of mine could have died some 2-3 months ago. So when you send a relative to the hospital, I think you also owe it a responsibility to the relative to be finding out, especially when you know very well that the relative cannot be questioning whatever treatment that is being given to that person that is close to you. You need to be finding out what really is going on with your relative. So in a case of you sensing a negligence on a part of the doctors or of the facility who owes your relative the duty of care, you can quickly take the matter up so that redress is brought to issues over there. Send in your messages. I'll read them. Your questions are also welcomed. Dr. Leslie Fiadio is still with us here.
Loyal.
We'll be wrapping up in the next, let's say, 15-20 minutes. And I know for the last part, we'll read questions that you respond to. But one question that I keep asking myself, how prevalent is the issue of medical negligence and medical malpractice in this country? Because we hardly hear of them.
Oh, there are lots. I mean, they are prevalent. Most of them go unchallenged because of the attitude of Ghanaians. Ghanaians are peace-loving people. One statement that is on the lips of every Ghanaian, Fama Nyame. Enyeshe. Nyame brene brepa. That's why I love this what was the Kweku Chains?
Yes.
Kweku Chains is Kweku Chains. I mean, that guy is a senior man.
Nyame Bachelor Republic.
Yes, Nyame Bachelor Republic. But but let me put it across that now Ghana is heading towards an era of legal awakening. People are more legally awakened now.
Okay.
So the word sue, S-U-E, is on almost everybody's tongue now. You understand that? Back then, it wasn't. But now, the tendency of the average Ghanaian to tell another person, I will sue you, or let's meet in court, is very high now, which is good. I'll always choose litigation over resorting to matters with a gun or with the barrel of the gun. You understand that? So people are getting legally awakened now, and you'll be surprised. They said if you don't stay close to the zoo, you never hear the lions roar.
Roar, yes.
But we who stay close to the action, at least if on the average, the lawyer is likely to encounter at least 40% of his cases being medical negligence.
What?
Yes. The rest...
40% of his cases being medical negligence in Ghana?
Especially as it pertains to me.
Wow.
Or to us. The rest are distributed between land and then land, divorce, and other stuff. But from where I practice, we've received about 40% of our cases.
Wow.
Yes. 40%.
Wow.
Yes.
40%. That's much.
Yes, that's much. That's encouraging. But it's not too encouraging, but it's okay.
It's not too encouraging.
No.
What do you mean by it's
but
not too encouraging? 40% of cases that your law firm works on.
Yeah.
It's around medical negligence.
Yes, it's around medical negligence.
And it's not too encouraging.
No, it's not
Why?
too encouraging. We want people to be legally conscious of their rights. You have a right. You know, we the lawyers can't come and encourage you to sue because it will amount to a misconduct.
Yes.
Yes, but you have the right to sue anybody who has acted negligently towards you in respect of a medical service that is rendered you. You have that right. You understand that? And when more and more people become aware of these rights, especially through mediums such as what we are
doing right now.
we are doing right now, the medical practitioners will sit up. Yes, they'll sit up. Though not only will they sit up, they will try to conform to the set standards. Without any excuse. Because sometimes it is appalling when you go to the hospitals, the way they even treat you. You know, and when there's something grave happening, they feel like they don't owe you any duty of care.
Yes.
But the inverse is the opposite. So if you have somebody who comes there knowing very well that me and maybe you owe me the duty of care, the conversation will be different. Now you would be sort of dictating terms because you know what your right says. You know about medical negligence. You've watched ETV, you've watched Men's Lounge, and you know that, no, your conduct or your profession is falling below a certain standard, and I have every right to make sure that I seek the compensation I need. So it is encouraging. There are cases, there are a lot of success stories, a lot of success stories.
Share some with us.
Personally, we handled a case. It is even online. I wouldn't mention the hospital and the facilities, but I mean, the victim went away with a lot of money.
Wow.
A lot of money. Even though money never brings back the dead, that is why it's called compensation, monetary compensation.
Compensation, yes.
You understand that? And maybe the person who died may have been a loved one. You may have been dependent on the person who died. It could be a father, it could be a mother, it could be an uncle, it could have been an auntie, somebody you were depending on, you know, whose life is cut short as a result of the negligence of another person. You deserve that compensation. And even with that one, it branches into a different law altogether, especially when death is involved, which the lawyers will call death in relation to torts. And negligence is a type of tort. So even though the injury may not have amounted to death, you can come safely under medical negligence. But where the injury amounts to death, or death results from the injury and their dependence and their life expectancy is deemed to have been cut short, then there's a whole separate law altogether, which the lawyers will call death in relation to tort. Death has occurred in relation to the tort that you committed. And guess what? Negligence is a type of tort.
Lawyer, let's go for a final break. When we return, you know, we're talking about on the part of people who probably might have experienced negligence. But when we return from the break, let's go on to the part of the facilities and as to whether they have any defense in some of these cases. And ask the question as to whether it is how easier or difficult it is to win a case involving medical negligence in Ghana. Return from the break very shortly. I know it's been another insightful edition of Men's Lounge live here on ETV Ghana. We have some 5 minutes to wrap up, Doc.
You keep calling me Doc.
So, do you see the doctor who was... Let's forget about the doctor. Let's talk about...
Surprisingly, I know 2 Dr. Fiadoros, but I'm not part.
Maybe you are one or the other related to them.
Yes, I'm related
Well, let's wrap up with, you know, do some of these health facilities have defenses? And the final question that I would want you to answer will be how easy or difficult it is to win a case involving medical negligence in Ghana.
Right. If you say, you see, the word defense is a strong word. Lawyers don't use it
like that.
Loosely like that.
Okay.
Because if you say a defense, it means that you have an excuse. A defense is an excuse that shields you from a person suing you in medical negligence. So what excuse are you bringing? Do you understand that? That is a defense. We have the partial ones. The partial one will mean that if you're able to successfully convince the court about that excuse, you are not paying the full amount, the damages, the monetary compensation, you will not be paying the full amount.
Okay.
You'll be looking at a reasonable amount that will be
court will
required of
determine,
you, right? And then there's the complete one. The complete one means that yes, yes, you found me negligent, but there are certain excuses that would make my acts, do you understand? That will make the same law will insulate me from being sued with respect to the negligence. If we look at, I wouldn't say consent, because I can consent to you performing a surgical operation on me, but I didn't consent to your negligence. Do you understand that? So consent is, we are looking at act of God. Maybe you were performing the surgery for me, there was a heavy downpour, you know, just in the process, there's lightning, there's power outage. The situation was compromised. There is no standby electricity
generator
or anything like that. And then you suffer some losses. I mean, an act of God. You understand that? Even though the situation is sad, but an act of God is an act of God.
Final one, lawyer. Is it difficult to win a case involving medical negligence in Ghana?
It depends.
That's if you're able to...
If you're able to prove all these three elements.
Okay, if you're able to
it is not even beyond reasonable. The reasonable doubt, let's leave it for the criminal law. You just need to convince the judges to a certain extent. That is it. Reasonable doubt is for criminal law. You understand that? And criminal matters. But with civil matters like negligence, you don't need to go to the level of reasonable doubt. You just need to convince the judge a little bit, and that is. And besides, there are what we call precedents, old cases where the judges have made a certain pronouncement. So if the facts of those cases fall on all fours with your present case, there's sure likely to be success.
Lawyer Leslie Fiadeo joined us tonight on Men's Lounge to discuss medical negligence. And I believe that you've learned 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things tonight. Many thanks for staying on with us. I am Sifat Dankwa. Men's Lounge returns next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of our programming live on ETV Ghana. Good night.